A very good evening to you and welcome to Idea TV News at 9. I am Cynthia Basi. We begin with the headlines. SANWO-OLU presents record 4.237 trillion naira Lagos budget for 2026. UN urges Nigeria to take urgent action amid surge in mass kidnappings. While LIBERIA reveals access fund rules to expand rural connectivity. President TINUBU sends new legal practitioners bill to Senate for modernization of Nigeria's legal profession. And Nigerian women empowered through NITDA'S renewed Hope ICT training. Away from Africa, US-backed GAZA Humanitarian Foundation ends operations after a month of controversy. While in health, Nigeria faces diagnostic crisis as 60% of radiographers work abroad. In business, Cameroon records $6.7 billion in exports, ranks 19th in Africa in 2024. And in sport, PINNICK blames Super Eagles World Cup miss on new qualification format. And now the news in full. Lagos State Governor Babajide SANWO-OLU has presented a record 4.237 trillion naira budget proposal for 2026 to the State House of Assembly in Ikeja. Titled The Budget of Shared Prosperity, the plan marks a sharp rise from the 2025 figure and is driven by the state's expanding economy and rising internally generated revenue. The governor disclosed that the proposal includes projected revenue of 3.993 trillion naira and the deficit financing requirement of 243 billion naira. The governor outlined the capital expenditure of 2.185 trillion naira and the current expenditure of 2.055 trillion naira covering overheads, personnel and debt servicing. Key allocations include 1.372 trillion naira for economic affairs, 338 billion naira for health, and 249 billion naira for education, reflecting the administration's push for infrastructure growth, social welfare, and human capital development. SANWO-OLU noted that Lagos continues to strengthen its revenue performance, with internally generated revenue rising from 815 billion naira in 2023 to 1.26 trillion naira in 2024. He added that the state had implemented 81% of the 2025 budget as of the third quarter. The 2026 proposal is now before Assembly for legislative scrutiny and approval. Moving on, the United Nations on Tuesday condemned the recent spike in mass kidnappings across north-central Nigeria, calling on authorities to take all lawful measures to halt the attacks and bring perpetrators to justice. UN Rights Office spokesman Temin Akitan expressed shock over the abductions during a press briefing in Geneva, emphasizing the need for prompt action. Since 17 November, at least 402 people, mostly school children, have been abducted in Niger, Kebbi, Kwara, and Borno states, with only 88 reportedly freed or escaped. The UN urged the Nigerian government to ensure the safe return of all victims, prevent further kidnappings, and conduct impartial investigations to hold those responsible accountable. The recent kidnappings have intensified concerns over Nigeria's long-standing security crisis. Since the 2014 Chibok abductions in Borno State, the country has faced repeated mass kidnappings, primarily carried out by criminal gangs seeking ransom. Borno State remains the epicenter of a violent Islamist insurgency that has claimed over 40,000 lives since 2009, underscoring the ongoing security challenges facing the region. Moving ahead, President Bola Tinubu has transmitted the Legal Practitioners Bill 2025 to the Senate, seeking a major overhaul of Nigeria's legal profession. The proposed law aims to modernize legal practice, strengthen regulation, and restore public confidence in the system. The bill introduces key reforms, including a mandatory 2-year post-professional legal internship and compulsory continuing professional development for all lawyers. It also establishes a strengthened legal practitioners disciplinary committee with the authority to investigate misconduct and impose sanctions such as suspension or removal from the role of legal practitioners. In a letter read by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, President TINUBU said the reforms are necessary to address evolving challenges in professional conduct and licensing. The Senate has referred the bill to the Committee on Rules and Business, with a report expected in 4 weeks. Moving ahead, Liberia's telecommunications regulator has begun reviewing the rules guiding the country's Universal Access Fund, the framework that supports voice and broadband expansion in remote communities. The Liberia Telecommunications Authority met with service providers in Monrovia on Friday to gather industry input, marking the fund's first major regulatory update in 5 years. Acting Director of the fund, Elijah Glaze, said the consultation is aimed at strengthening the Universal Access Program, ensuring that infrastructure rollout and service delivery in underserved areas become more efficient and affordable. He stressed that practical feedback from operators is essential to shaping regulations that better reflect today's connectivity demands. The LTA says all contributions from the consultation will be incorporated into a final draft on the revised rules. Once adopted, the updated framework is expected to guide national efforts to close Liberia's rural connectivity gap and improve access to basic telecommunications services across the country. In another news, the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, has celebrated the successful conclusion of this year's Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI Women in ICT Training, a nationwide program aimed at equipping Nigerian women with digital skills to shape Nigeria's technological future. While this year's edition has concluded, the initiative's influence is expected to extend far beyond the training period. Empowered women from across the country now are poised to drive innovation, participate fully in the digital economy, and contribute to national development. We now take a quick break. The news continues when we return.
Number 2, advanced neurotechnology beyond BCIs. Brain-computer interfaces grabbed headlines when Neuralink implanted its first chip in 2024. But neurotechnology is much broader. Researchers are testing non-invasive brain stimulation to treat depression and PTSD, while companies like Kernel are developing helmets that can monitor brain activity with unprecedented detail. Clinical trials are exploring personalized brain therapies for epilepsy and Alzheimer's. In 2023, the U.S. NIH launched its Brain Initiative 2.0, investing billions in advanced neurotech. By 2026, these innovations could expand from medical use into wellness and cognitive enhancement.
Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is Idea TV News at 9. Now the rest of the news. Away from Africa, the United States and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has announced it is winding down operations in Gaza after nearly 6 months. The organization had already suspended its food distribution sites following the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel 6 weeks ago. It claimed to have delivered more than 3 million aid packages during its emergency mission. The initiative was widely criticized by the United Nations and other humanitarian agencies who refused to work with the foundation, saying its system bypassed established channels and violated core humanitarian principles. The UN reported that hundreds of Palestinians were killed while attempting to reach the heavily secured distribution zones, mostly by Israeli fire, figures that Israel disputes, saying its troops fired warning shots. Hamas welcomed the closure and called for accountability over the deaths and injuries recorded around the sites. The foundation says its model will now be adopted capacity of abandoning hospitals and heightening patient waiting times for imaging services across the nation. Senior radiology experts, including Professor Nzota Christian of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, cited poor salaries, limited career growth, outdated equipment, and challenging working conditions as key factors driving radiographers to Europe and other destinations. Nigeria currently has fewer than 5,000 active radiographers, far below the 50,000 recommendation by the World Health Organization, leaving the country with less than 5% of the needed workforce. The shortage has also impacted education, with only a small fraction of radiography students planning to practice locally. Experts warn that if unaddressed, the exodus could further weaken diagnostic services, reduce patient care quality, and deepen the strain on an already fragile healthcare system. Authorities have called for urgent interventions to retain talent and modernize healthcare infrastructure. Now in business news, Cameroon's export revenues reached $6.7 billion in 2024, according to a report by the Competitiveness Committee, a think tank under the Ministry of Economy. The country ranks 19th among Africa's main exporters, accounting for 1.1% of the continent's total exports, slightly down from 18th place in 2023 due to a $400 million decline in export earnings. Within the CEMAC region, Central African Economic and Monetary Community, Cameroon trails Congo 16th for 1.4% and Gabon 17th, 1.3%, highlighting differences in export performance among neighboring countries. Despite relying heavily on commodities, Cameroon's export contribution remains modest compared to dominant African economies. Africa's top exporters continue to be South Africa, 18.8%, Nigeria 9.7%, and Morocco 8.1%, illustrating a concentration of export performance among a few countries. The report underscores the limited share of most African nations in global trade, with the bottom 9 of the top 20 exporters holding less than 2% each. Cameroon's performance reflects broader regional trends, with North Africa largely dominating the top 10. West Africa represents mainly by Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire, and Central Africa, including Angola and the Republic of Congo. South Africa remains the sole missing the 2022 and 2026 World Cups, reflected poor leadership, insisting Nigeria's results were affected by structural changes rather than performance. PINNICK cited key victories against Argentina and Poland, as well as the team's performance against England during his tenure, adding that he influenced the design of the current Super Eagles jersey through negotiations with Nike. PINNICK also noted that his administration secured unprecedented Nigerian representation in CAF and FIFA committees, with at least 25 Nigerians serving during his time. While declining to reveal all his interventions, he maintained that those familiar with his work understood the extent of his contributions to Nigerian football. And that's all we have for you on Idea TV News at 9. But before we go, here's a recap of the headlines. We brought you news that SANWO-OLU presents record 4.237 trillion naira Lagos budget for 2026. UN urges Nigeria to take urgent action amid surge in mass kidnappings. Liberia reviews access fund rules to expand rural connectivity. And President Bola Ahmed TINUBU sends new legal practitioners bill to Senate for modernization of Nigeria's legal profession. Nigerian women empowered through NITDA'S renewed Hope ICT training. And away from Africa, US-backed GAZA Humanitarian Foundation ends operations after months of controversy. In health, Nigeria faces diagnostic crisis as 60% of radiographers work abroad. And in business, Cameroon records $6.7 billion in exports, ranks 19th in Africa in 2024. In sport, PINNICK blames Super Eagles World Cup miss on new qualification format. And now do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea Television. My name is Cynthia Bassi. Thank you for your time.